All right, we are back for another Wildcard Wednesday. And I know it's a little bit late, but that's pretty much the Wildcard Wednesday way. For the weird people that are up late, maybe working, actually doing things, they're just kicking back, trying to relax end of the day. So here we are, Wildcard Wednesday. I know last week we talked about the SIG P320 and the possible issues that it has. Again, to kind of wrap that one up, if you didn't see it, one, you could go watch it, or two, so far, and I have had my SIG 320 on the table, been looking at it. I really want to have a slide machine for it, similar to what I have with my Glocks, which is what's called an armor slide. Going to have some windows cut into it so that not only can I look at this issue farther, but also look at what else I can do trigger wise to the 320. So I think I know who I'm going to ask to do that, because my little mill back here is not set up for that. I do a lot of little plastic little stuff for. Now that mill back there in the background, that is what makes possible the Leonidas systems, and which kind of rolls us into the type of announcements I have for this week. Okay, number one, and this is pretty big. With the Leonidas system, the Leonidas Peacemaker has dropped. It is on the website now. That is the Leonidas system with the Peacemaker trigger shoe. That is the Gunco, I believe they call it the Gunco SS trigger shoe, which is an excellent trigger shoe. So, should you get one of these bad boys in your mail, and you're a lucky person. I mean, well, you've paid for it. It is a beauty, and inside, I love that. You hear that little? Oh yeah, let's hear it again. Oh yeah. Inside is a Leonidas Peacemaker right there. So, should one of these bad boys show up on your doorstep, you are a very fortunate person. You are about to have the most fun behind a Glock that you have ever had. There's only so many that I am able to produce in a month, and that mill back there helps me do that consistently. Right here, Leonidas Peacemaker. It's on the website. If you get a chance, go check it out. Tactical Pontoon. If you want a Leonidas, check out the Leonidas Peacemaker. There's awesome pictures of it. I will post some here on YouTube on the post option. Instagram, if you are all about the Instagram, you can find more pictures and a video of the action. I don't have one in a gun right now to show you the action, but it's beautiful. Check it out. Okay, the next part of the news would be, and I touched on this on the Swimming with the Pontoon on Sunday. Time's running out. The drop-in systems, the equalizers, they're going away. So if you want to get on the books for one of those, you need to do so now, because Saturday they're gone. Now, that's not to say I'm not doing drop-ins anymore. That's where the Peacemaker system is going to be the head of that line of the drop-ins. And then, of course, I will also be adding the Train with Purpose trigger shoe for some of the drop-ins as well. But if you want one with the Excommunicado trigger shoe, you better hurry up, because they're almost gone. After that, the Excommunicado trigger shoe will only be available on the Excommunicado system and the Leonidas. So if you're interested in making that happen, you need to get going soon. But again, the Gunco shoe, there's a reason why I chose it. It's excellent. You should, if you're interested. If you want to drop in trigger, that is an excellent option. Don't pass by. Don't stick your nose up at it. It is wonderful. Now, the third piece of news that I have from Tactical Pontoon is something that I've been asked for a long time. And just like the Leonidas system, I was hesitant to do so for a long time just because of the amount of work. Because anybody, I mean, truly, truly anybody can make a Glock trigger that has no take up. But to do it safely is another deal entirely. And with this announcement, because I fought against doing this for a long time, just like drop-ins, a Leonidas for the G43, 43X, and 48. The reason why I was not doing these was because if you look at one of the slimline pistols, there's not a lot of room back there. And there's a lot of modification that needs to happen in that area to create a trigger that is safe, because a lot of action goes on right in that little area. So in order to build a Leonidas system for the slimline series, I had to figure out how to do those sort of modifications in that area with the amount of space that I had. I'm basically there. I am there. Okay. So I have a pre-order going for the Leonidas system on the G43. They're like I said, it's a pre-order. It takes even more work, more delicate work, and there's still a possibility of messing up parts. So that's why it's a pre-order. Messing up parts on my end, those parts are still not cheap. The aftermarket has not been real big on Gen 5 and Glock 43 parts that are worth a crap. So, obviously that brings up a cost issue, which is another reason why I stayed away from building the Leonidas system for the Glock 43. So, pre-order, there's 5 spots available. This is a pre-order, and it does have a lead time. Currently, it's at 6 weeks. The reality is that could go out farther depending on, I have proven the system. I've got it proven. It's there. But it's going to take some time in and amongst all the other work that I have going to make sure that I get these knocked out. So it's a pre-order for 5. There's 5 spots open. The initial run will be black on black. So if you want that amazing Leonidas action in the Slimline series, there's 5 spots. That's it for now. Once those 5 spots are taken, I will get those finished, and then I will open up another 5 slots. This is the best trigger system that you will find for the Glock 43. All safeties are maintained. Now, I really do not recommend it for a EDC build just because of you don't have any pre-travel. All the safeties are maintained. It's not a super light trigger. I went with something. I went around a 4-pound limit, so it's not super light. I'm just saying it's not something I recommend. That's it. That's just it for EDC. But at the same time, you be you. You do what you do. If you want the best Glock 43 slimline trigger that there is, 5 spots available. It's pre-order. If you want it, come and get it. It's amazing. It's a beast. So that's what I got there for the Glock 43. That's the one. Okay. 5 spots are available, and then we'll go from there. So that's pretty much it on the news for what we've got going on Tactical Pontoon right now. I've still got some stuff to add to the website, some new parts and whatnot, but for triggers, that's the news. So let's continue on with Wildcard Wednesday. To start up, I would like to mention two different companies this week. The first one is he started out, well, not started out, but I met him through building triggers. He hit me up, was like me, he had gone through all the different triggers on the market and probably, everything from the top, the most expensive out there, custom. And he just wasn't happy. He hit me up. I built him an excommunicado system. And next thing he knew, he was replacing every single trigger of his Glock fleet. And he has quite a few Glocks. I've built him a lot of triggers with excommunicados. So the proof is in the pudding for him. He, like I said, he tried them all. I came in, blew him away. And I'm not talking about just basic drop-ins that he had. He had the best. And I beat it. So that would be Matt of MLG Customs. He does laser work. Primarily, he does laser work. He does photography as well. He's an excellent photographer. He's built so many guns, it's not even funny. But his main thing is custom laser work. He does primarily, you'll find he does magazines. He'll do runs of AR-15 magazines, knives, just a little bit of everything. And I'm sure he takes on custom work as well. So if you want to find him and check his stuff out, that would be on Instagram. You will find that under MLG Customs LLC. That is one word on Instagram. Check him out. Tell him I sent you. Like I said, if you want something custom done, I'm sure he'll make it happen. All right, Matt, go do some lasering. The next company I want to talk about is they build parts for a platform that, from a trigger standpoint, almost doesn't need my help. And that would be a Canic. Now, I have a Canic. I enjoy shooting it. It was one of those deals where it was so cheap, I had to try it. I'd heard the triggers were good, and overall, it was pretty good. But it's a basic one. It was just the one with a little decocker on top. It's nothing special. A decent shooter. I have shot some of the nicer ones. Not sure if sorry. There's a YouTube creator. I don't believe I've not seen him upload in several years now. KS Gun Guy. I built several Glock triggers for him. And back when the first Canic Elite came out, the one that's got the salient arm barrel and that sort of thing, he sent me over his version to take a look at and shoot and give it a try. There's actually a video on my YouTube of where I talk about that gun. And that thing's a beast. And since then, and that's been 3 or 4 years ago since Canic released that, they just keep going up, and they've got so many different versions, and I get lost thinking about all the different versions of Canic. But they're good guns. Now, the one thing about them is there's not a big market for aftermarket parts. There's a big market for aftermarket parts, but there's not a lot of options out there. And that brings me to Disruptive Defense. That would be found online at disdef.com. Reason I bring them up is I have been working with the owner of Disdef, or Disruptive Defense, for a long time now. He started out doing Cerakote. He knocked out my CZP-10 slide. Awesome guy. Here, the funny thing was, I had sent him that slide. I told him, take your time, go, make it awesome, do something unique. And I pretty much just let it be. I had other projects going on. Well, some time had passed, and like I said, we kept in contact. I never really asked him about the slide. And one day, maybe a year later or so, and I know he was busy. He did amazing Cerakote work. He was very, very busy. So I never really asked him about it. And one day it came up in conversation. And I don't remember how it came up in a conversation. And I said, "Oh no, I thought you still had it. I thought you still had my slide." He said, "No, I sent it out 6 months ago or something like that." He said, "I just thought maybe, hey Steven, what's up? How's it going, man? Um, I thought maybe you just didn't like it, so you didn't bring it up. You didn't mention it." So turns out that slide had gotten lost in the mail, and because I didn't ask about it, and like I said, it was a long-term project. It got lost in the mail. He tracked it down. Brandon of Disruptive Defense, Applied Arsenal at that time when he was doing Cerakote. He tracked it down. He found it. It had gotten just demolished, the Cerakote job, and from, I guess it had broken out of the box. It was just bad. He took the time. He re-Cerakoted it and sent it back. It's amazing. I wish I had been smart enough to grab it. But again, that was the Cerakote part. He's now building not some of, the best parts for Canics out there. So if you have a Canic, disdef.com, from the best compensators, the best mag releases. I believe he's got a mag wheel that's coming out. Probably one of his claims to fame are optic plates. Now, with Glocks, you have a ton of options for optic plates that fit in the optic cuts. You don't have that with the Canic normally, except for Disdef. They do. So a big shout out to disdef.com or Disruptive Defense. If you've got a Canic, that's going to be your go-to. So that's it for Canic. That's for my shout outs. Steven, I'm working on a couple triggers. Actually, we're talking about Yeet Cannon tonight. Yes, that's pretty much my first thing, because in 2019 or 2018, that was the big thing. And we'll just get started on that with SHOT Show. I mean, that's all anybody was talking about. That, with all the memes, all the pictures that were coming from SHOT Show, was the YC9. And of course, if you know anything about how that got its name, was High Point made the biggest internet mistake that companies make, and that is asking the public online to help name something. And of course, Yeet Cannon won out. Originally, they were going to name it something after everything hit the fan, and Yeet Cannon won. They were originally going to call it something else. I forget what the name was. And then finally they got literally, Steven, you're right. They got bullied into bringing it back, and the YC9 or Yeet Cannon 9, that was the name. Now, it promised a lot of features for like $200. Everything from a threaded barrel to extra slide serrations. I think it was optic cut, and it made a big splash. It literally made a big splash, and I'm sure something that heavy, knowing if you've ever dealt with a High Point, they are freaking heavy just to stay together with that cheap metal that they use. So that would definitely make a big splash. Anyways, for the money, it was literally going to be, a heck of a deal. But, and I remember all the memes of this. I mean, they're ugly. It was ugly. Just the 3D printed model was going around, pictures of it being screwed directly to their display, and people are saying, if they treat their, I don't know. It was a big deal. Everybody was talking about the Yeet Cannon. And after SHOT Show, you didn't hear much about it. And here we are several years later, and I scoured the internet to try and find out any information about whether or not the YC9 was, it hit me the other day. I'm like, why? I haven't heard anything about the YC9 in a while. So I figured, you know what? Let me go check. Scott, you'll dual wield two YC9s if they are double stack mags. I know how strong you are, Scott. I don't think you're going to be able to hold those up for very long. I'm just saying. Just saying, Scott. Anyways. So I looked. I couldn't find anything. Now, granted, you can still find the Yeet Cannon G1. A gun broker will have them all over the place, and that was I gotta give High Point this. They went with it. They laser etched a bunch of them with Yeet Cannon Gen 1, and they understood the joke, and I get that. I have to applaud them for it. They build some cheap guns. They really do, and they for the most part work. Scott, who is the one that brought up he brought up an excellent modification for the original High Point, my good friend Scott, where if you remove a spring inside of there, it drops the break of the trigger by like 2 pounds. It becomes almost a decent trigger. It doesn't make the gun good, but it definitely helps. So, I mean, if you're interested in Yeet Cannon trigger modifications, we can talk about that at a later time and date. The magazine safety spring. Thank you, Scott. But after that, it's been several years, and there's no. Now, granted, this has been a hell of a 3-year span since that announcement came out. So it doesn't surprise me that from a manufacturing standpoint that they're not out yet. It was definitely a pie in the sky pricing back then. Yeah. Back then, to get that sort of gun and for them to make a profit, even back then, was kind of asking for a lot. In today's marketplace, I can definitely see why they haven't, but I literally, there's not any really good updates for the YC9. It was one of those things. Wildcard Wednesday, I thought I'd bring it up. If anybody's heard anything about it, that maybe they've got an inside source at High Point, let me know. I'm kind of interested. I really don't want one, but at the same time, kind of do just because. And I definitely need to get one before my friend Scott gets one, just so that I can rub it in his face. So that's it on the YC9. I literally, if anybody's got any information on it or has seen one or if knows whether they're planning on actually bringing one to the market, I'd be interested in just hearing something about it. Yeah, $160 for your $160 pew. Yeah, I don't think I could even begin charging. You know what? I do have that High Point. I could do some laser etching on it if the slide would survive. Probably melt. Okay, so yeah, Yeet Cannon. What a deal. So if anybody knows anything, let me know. I'm curious. It's kind of a wild card subject. And then let's go on to another subject. The Shadow CR920, which is their slimline, which is Shadow Systems slimline. They're I know just recently Honest Outlaw, he did a second review on his. They had sent him a new barrel, trying to help. And I think he had one issue and 1,000 rounds, so that's better than what people were having originally. So that being said, I've got one coming so that I can take a look at it. The Shadow Systems, their slimline, they did something that's kind of a hybrid in their trigger. It basically looks like a really miniature Generation 3 trigger. If you've seen the inside of a Glock 43, you'll know that it's basically the basis for what they designed the Generation 5 triggers around. Well, Shadow went backwards in time, Shadow went backwards in time and based it off a Glock Generation 3. Now, to the best of my knowledge, a Glock 43 trigger will work in it, but obviously I can't just guess about that. So I've got one coming in, and my plan is to, while I've got it here, take a look at it, do kind of an overhead video of what I find inside there, and just kind of give my opinions, and then of course build a trigger for it, and then that'll be it. Because Shadow makes a neat gun. I've had their full size and their Glock 19 versions in the shop. They're neat. They actually provide a lot of good value for the money, but it was never something that I completely fell in love with enough to just hold on to. So that the Shadow CR 920, it's going to be neat. I look forward to showing you guys what's inside of it, building a trigger, maybe do the Leonidas for it. We'll see. It's going to depend on the aforementioned, or not aforementioned, but the thing that I talk about, which would be the trigger guard opening, as well as the safety plunger, because that's also going to make a difference on, like I said, anybody can make a trigger that has all of the pre-travel taken up, but if you can't do it safely, well, then it's just a range toy, and it's not something that I'm personally interested in putting my name on. And the same goes with why not? Let's talk about this. This is Wildcard Wednesday, and I'm probably going to regret talking about this because I didn't plan on talking about it. Did not plan on talking about this, but let's go for it. Binary triggers on Glocks. Okay, I didn't plan on talking about this, and here we are. But it's Wildcard Wednesday. Binary triggers for Glocks. There's a couple companies coming out with one. I toyed with it. Several years ago, I toyed with the idea of bringing one to the market, because who doesn't like blasting a bunch of ammunition away? And doing it with a binary trigger is fun. But I decided that I was not going to put the Tactical Pontoon name on something like that, because really that's kind of a gimmick. It's kind of a gimmick. That wasn't what I wanted to put my name behind. Don't get me wrong. I like having fun. Kind of gimmicky in and of myself. I mean, I did name a trigger system the Leonidas. You could call that kind of a gimmick. Let's listen to this again. Trust me. When you get a trigger and it makes that noise before you get to display it, that alone, that's a gimmick I can get behind. But binary triggers was not something that I was going to put my name behind. There's a lot of things that go on with making something like that legal, and it just wasn't something that I wanted to do. A lot of extra work for something that's kind of a gimmick. But binary triggers for Glocks, they're coming. They're expensive. They're kind of a gimmick. That's just my take on it. Like I said, I enjoy having fun, but the reality is, when it comes to binary operation on a Glock trigger, that's something I consider. I have customers that come to me all the time, or people that have troubleshooting issues all the time with binary triggers. You really don't need to spend a lot of money to have a binary trigger on a Glock. You can literally throw some parts together and have that issue for free. And you could tune your trigger to do that for free. But I'm not going to talk too much about that aspect of it. That is what I consider a failure, is when you have a binary trigger in a Glock. And maybe if you've messed with enough Glock triggers, you've probably got one that was binary and you didn't want it to be binary. So you tune it out. You don't even have to get different parts. You can tune it out, which is what you should do. So like I said, binary Glock triggers, there's a couple different companies that are coming out with them. And one company in particular, one company in particular, I made the mistake and called it a gimmick, and they got upset with me, and I really didn't mean to rub them the wrong way. Maybe I was having a bad day. Maybe they were having a bad day, but they're a good company. They make a lot of really good parts, and they've done a lot of good things for the Glock community. So the fact that I kind of rubbed them the wrong way, I didn't mean it. Like I said, binary triggers, they're fun, but it's not something you're going to see the Tactical Pontoon name on. Like I said, I toyed with it a while back, but it just wasn't for me to have my name on a binary trigger, especially for a lot of money when you can do it for free. I mean, you can make a anyways, binary triggers. I didn't plan on talking about it. It's Wildcard Wednesday. It's late in the evening for some people, and so I got off onto that subject. If you want a binary trigger on your Glock and you want to do it the right way and all that stuff, go to one of those guys when they finally drop, if they ever drop. It's fun. Again, who doesn't like to mag drop? But I know that my triggers all have resets so short you don't need a binary trigger. It's right there. Anyways, binary triggers, got off onto a different tangent than I meant to. The other thing, SIG, which we talked about last Wildcard Wednesday, aside from guns, they're producing a lot of accessories. They produce, actually, some of my favorite carry ammo is the SIG V Crown. SIG V Crown. You could almost consider it the cheaper version to the Spear Gold Dots. V Crown. So, SIG makes a lot of different things, and like I said, they are an American company. The Swedish and German SIG that you think of is not really the SIG that is today. So they are an American company, and as an American company, they are producing a lot of things, and they are really flooding the market, not only with guns, and they, like I said, they have so many different variants of the 365 and 320. It's not even funny. Then their AR based platforms, and then their AR Steven, I've been using V Crowns because due to their availability. I've been using them since quite a while, and especially when you have some fun, you set up, especially when you're looking at different carry bullets. You set up the water jugs and you shoot through them, and you can see the expansion, which it looks neat. It's not exactly 100% obviously how it's going to react when it hits the actual target, but it's fun. And the V Crown gave really good results and good penetration and expansion especially for the price. It's good ammo. So I don't have anything bad to say. I truly don't have anything bad overall to say about SIG. They are doing awesome work. They are filling the market, needs in the market. And to bring it back would be accessories. That SIG's got their red dots of varying quality and pricing. Some of them are very inexpensive. And again, I'm not one of those people that believes that each and every gun accessory needs to be run over by a tank before saying that it's good to use. Because a lot of people, I enjoy my range time. A lot of people enjoy range time, and they want to have those extra accessories without spending a ton of money. And they're never going to be in a place where they're not going to be run over by a tank. But you never know with this world, and chances are that red dot is probably, even if it could be run over by a tank, is probably not going to help them very much, most of us. So anyways, back to it. they've got a lot of accessories. I noticed that they just put out their SIG Foxtrot LX handgun light. Thought about grabbing one. I like flashlights. There's differences of opinion on whether a flashlight should be on a gun. They look really good in pictures for advertising, and so that's something obviously that I do. And so I thought about getting a hold of one. What are your thoughts on all the different SIG accessories like the Foxtrot light? Now, I do have Streamlights. I've got a Surefire, got some O lights back. I bought a bunch of those before it was extremely against the internet's rules for owning an O light. Like I said, they work for basic things. There are definitely some questionable issues with O light. Because I've seen people that I know that have had issues with some of their O lights. I have seen that. Have seen people break Surefires. I've seen people obviously break Streamlights. Anything and everything breaks for the wrong that you can have a Friday model that came out and somebody, like I said, there's going to be good and bad from all of them. And they are trying to innovate, Jesse. They are. SIG is definitely trying to innovate. They've filled the market. They've got some interesting stuff. I'm probably not going to go big on getting their red dots. Like I said, I'll probably get a flashlight. I want to take a look at it just to see option wise, price wise. It's right there in the middle. It's right around that Streamlight price, and Streamlight comes. It's one of those ones that you can definitely get a Streamlight for a good price that's going to rock and roll and be good. I've had good luck with I've got several different Streamlights on different guns. Surefire, the prices on Surefire are up there. And then here recently we've got the Cloud. Is it Cloud or Owl or something? Hey, Jesse, I definitely get where you're going with on I build guns I build a lot of guns for fun, and they look good. Who doesn't like one that's kitted out that looks like something off a video game or an action movie? And I'm enough of a geek to say that I build some for fun. I've got some serious ones, and when it comes to serious guns, I mean, a good Glock 19 is hard to beat. A factory one or one with one of my polished, tuned up triggers is hard to beat. Also a USP. That's another good one. Love my USP. It is, and I have, speaking of flashlights, I have one of the original H&K flashlights. It does not work. I've not taken it apart, but I thought about it. Because I mean, Metal Gear Solid, right? Mine is a USP 40, not the USP 9, but right now it is a USP 357 SIG because I am a geek and I really like that cartridge. The USP was not made for the 357 SIG. It does have some issues with chambering it all the time, so it is not one that I would recommend for using the 357 SIG in the USP, except for fun. And I enjoy, like I said, right now the USP is one that I use for fun. I have two different guns that I rely on inside the house for different handguns. One of those is an HK, and that is a P2000, also in 40 Smith & Wesson. Now, I am not a 40 Smith & Wesson fan. I'm really not. However, the price of this basically brand new H&K P2000 was excellent. So I grabbed it. Eventually, maybe I'll change it over to a 9mm, but at the same time, it's another one of those guns. It's a baby USP, if you will, or a precursor to the P30, and it's solid. It is definitely a solid gun. Have it. I also have obviously a Glock 19 that's got a few additions to it. One of my original trigger systems that started the Excommunicado line. It is the very first of that edition. That hey, good to have you around, Bayou Vibes. It's like I've not been doing lives for long. I really have not. They're a weekly thing. My goal is twice a week, Wednesday evening, Wednesday night, and then Sunday evenings. So if you get a chance and join us on the lives, that's awesome. With the lives, I plan on having some guests and figuring out exactly how to share the stream and do that sort of thing. So right now we're just getting started. We're getting things going, and it's fun. It's fun. Thank you on the video quality. I've got a good camera. I finally got it locked in place where it's not focus breathing. Lighting's pretty decent. Every stream it changes just a little bit. I haven't quite nailed it down. Get Doc on. Yes, maybe that would be fun. If I could get, that would be fun. Maybe I'll take the whole rig down there and get him on. Scott, if you're still watching, you know Doc. He's fun. He is a lot of fun. Hey, Angel. Yeah, that Combat Armory, the Aliens build it was cool. It's on one of the posts here just a few days ago. And then if you follow me on Instagram, I've got pictures of that one. Got into the Combat Armory field. Yeah, Scott, you know Doc, DTS Tactical, the gun shop here local. Yeah, anyways, you know him. Combat Armory, I've got a couple of their frames. I got something I want to do with one of those. And then the other thing I've got coming in is an SCT frame. That's one of the new ones on the market. It looks really similar to Strike, the Strike P80. It's got some neat lines to it. We'll see how it stands up. Like I said, the Combat Armory, their frame, which came out of almost nowhere, to me anyways. I am sweating. It's a little warm in here. I gotta apologize for that. But I didn't want to have the AC on and make a bunch of noise. It is Louisiana, and even though it's November, as you know, Bayou Vibes, it's still warm. And here in the shop, like I said, I didn't want to have the AC on because it makes a ton of noise, and want to listen to the beautiful noise of my voice, and even better, the noise of a Leonidas. If you get one of these bad boys in your shop or for one of your guns, this is the top. There is a reason why you get such a beautiful noise with the Leonidas. That noise alone, I wish, yes, Scott, I wish they had a 17. Nobody builds 17 frames except for very few people. That would be Nomad Defense. PSA, I think, is about to release one. They have their Glock 45 frame, which I'm interested in. I am interested in a Glock 40 for the Glock 45 or Glock 19X style frame. Anyways, I could build. I would want to build all of them and as one of each. SCT frame is coming in. I'm from what I've heard, it's really nice. I've worked with some of SCT stuff in the past. They're not a really big, well-known company, but they do a lot of stuff behind the scenes for different parts. So that's how I know them. And I think the SCT frame is going to be nice. I've got somebody already lined up for the frame. Yes, Anderson, they did. What frame is that? I think Anderson. I forget which. I think Anderson also used the SCT frame. you know, the Glock, as I've said before, and in my original video on the Glock, our Glock's overpriced, I said, Glock is quickly going to become the Colt of manufacturers. They've, Colt relied on the 1911 and the AR when they acquired that for a long time. They didn't do a ton of innovation, and here we're seeing that. I said that back then with just the P80s were around. Yes, SCT frame, which could be a good thing. And I don't hate Anderson. I think Anderson makes some really, good budget price. Like, again, I'm not one of those people that has to have the exact best everything, especially for something that's a range toy. So I am interested. I don't know that I would buy the Anderson build, just like I'm not going to buy a full PSA dagger. I mainly deal with the frames, and then I will attach my own slide and my own everything else. But that is just me. If somebody wanted to buy just a I'm going off on a tangent. Back to point. Colt, Glock, they're very similar. We will see if Glock can kind of break out of that market and do some innovation. But at the same time, can they keep their model going and do better than Colt? I think in reality they can. I think they're going to do better than Colt. I don't see them completely following in Colt's footsteps, but with all of the Glock clones out there, it's very similar. And just like a 1911, you can get a better basic model off the shelf from somewhere else than you can Glock. If I was going to just buy one, I would probably still buy a Glock versus, say, a Shadow Systems, or who else makes a full one? Mine's going blank. Obviously, PSA. I think the PSA dagger is neat, but I don't see it being in the same, just like the Anderson. They're neat. I don't know that I would buy one if I was buying it to rely on. Terran takes a factory Glock and does a lot of really cool stuff to it. I know where a lot of their stuff gets machined. It's good quality, especially here lately. Their framework has gone up. It used to be really bad, but they came up with the rise of everything else. Terran had a trigger prototype for a long time. Every so often in some of their promotional stuff, you would see a picture of it, but there were a couple of reasons why he never came out with his own trigger. Did have a connector kit, and then now recently he's pretty much just went with the Timney. I get why they went with the Timney for competition. Tuned right, they're mostly reliable. We can do a video on Timney. I really don't want to do a video on Timney, not because not a fan of the Timney system for a variety of reasons. There are some stuff that just was shoehorned into place that doesn't belong in a Glock. It feels good, but it's not the most reliable thing out there, and people can make them. Yes, Jesse, the Timney reset sucks. There's a reason why it sucks. Because of the type of spring they had to shoehorn in there, because the way a Glock works is the action of the striker lug on the trigger bar is actually what allows a Glock to reset. That's one of the things that gives a Glock a good reset like that. With the Timney, because it's basically divorced, the trigger bar is divorced from the striker. They had to include a different trigger spring return spring in the design, and it's been nothing but trouble. It's just a little two-legged spring, and they put different weights in there, and it's just not it's not great. And I'm going to be honest, I was extremely excited when I saw Timney was creating a trigger for the Glock. I got one in the shop originally. It's still over there. I've played with it. I've tried to, every so often I'll dig it out of the box. I'll try to play with it. My goal originally was to create a Timney with the Excommunicado trigger shoe on it. And after playing with enough of with that multiple different times, and there were issues with different frames not having striker cruciform, well, call it cruciform striker lug engagement, which was a safety issue. There were binary issues, especially with P80s. After so many different problems, and I decided, no, I'm not going to put my name on the Timney. So I stopped. Like I said, every so often I dig it out again. I think I play with it, and it's still, it's just not my thing. It's not something I recommend. And a lot of people have had luck with them. They like them just because of how light they are. And I'll get on the soapbox again about how light a trigger is not quality. You can throw together parts and make a 1 pound trigger that is extremely mushy. And it's just, whereas you can have an extremely well tuned 7 pound trigger, and not only will you be more accurate, you will be more satisfied than something that's 1/2 pound and extremely mushy and doesn't reset. But that's just me. Trigger Jedi. Have not been called Trigger Jedi yet. I like that. Trigger Jedi. If only Disney hadn't ruined Star Wars and it was still fun. But that's another subject altogether and a different thing. Trigger Jedi, though, I like that. I could kind of Yoda-ish. I don't quite have the ears, but I am short. So there is that. Yes, so did I. So did I, Jesse. In the beginning, and that's how I got started, was by throwing different parts onto a trigger, and it just was garbage. It was light, but it was light garbage. It was mushy. It had a ton of travel, and that's kind of what got me down on the down this road. Was I bought a lot of different parts and different trigger shoes. I remember poor sweet James, who thought that the trigger shoe was going to make all the difference. And I bought a ton of different trigger shoes. Probably my first one was a Kinetatech because it was cheap. It was flat. It's decent. It's actually, for a trigger shoe, it's decent. Their quality standards are a little bit iffy overall, but it's a flat trigger shoe. I think one of the next ones, which is a beautiful trigger shoe, was the SSVI, or I think Glock, Rock Your Glock, I think ended up buying the design, and that was the Tier trigger, which is a curved trigger, really, really beautiful trigger. Same company that built the original VP9 triggers that I tuned. And I since switched from them to another design. But anyways, that's I could ramble. I can go on. I've been doing all this trigger stuff and gun stuff for a while, that I've got stories and different things that have happened. So that's kind of the fun of these lives, is you'll catch me going off on tangents, and different things in chat will get me going from different stories of different things that I've done and seen that maybe doesn't always hit the streets, and kind of a peek behind the curtains of some of the things in the gun industry, or just triggers. So before I ramble on, I think I've done enough damage. And I've had fun. I really, really enjoy talking to you guys and being able to answer some questions and talk about just a bunch of different things. YC9, the Yeet cannon. If anybody's heard about them, where they're at now, are they going to be a thing? I want to know because I couldn't find anything. I'm gonna poke some of the people I know in the industry. I just didn't do it before I threw together this, this live stream. See if maybe I will update it just like the SIG P320. Like I said, with the SIG 320, I'm going to be sending a slide out to have it milled for a armor slide. So I can really dig deep down, kind of like I do with the Glocks. So 320 stuff is coming, or at least just more information about them. So that's kind of it for tonight. To bring it back around, I want to bring up again my good friend Matt at MLG Customs. If you need laser work done or you want some custom magazines, AR magazines that have been laser etched, he does knives. He's got some really cool, the topography laser etching. He does knives with that. He does magazines and a bunch of other custom stuff. And I'm sure he would do something custom. You just got to hit him up. You will find him on Instagram under MLG Customs LLC. All one word, no slashes, no spaces, anything like that. There you'll find him on Instagram. Tell him I send you. You can see he's got, like I said, he started out as a customer. Really good guy. Built him a ton of Glock triggers. Then the other one, if you like Canics, if you own Canics and you want to build up a really cool Canic, go to disdef, DISDEF.com. That's Disruptive Defense. There's a big market. There's a ton of Canics out there, and there's not a lot of aftermarket parts. Well, if you want the best, disdef.com. He doesn't even know I'm bringing him up. That is Brandon. I have been working with him for a long time on a lot of different projects. I had to give him a shout out. So, Canic, disdef.com. You need laser stuff. MLG Customs LLC. And as always, if you need a trigger that makes a beautiful noise when you open up the package, there is the Leonidas. Or if you need to drop in tactical pontoon. I've rambled enough. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I will catch you next time. Swimming with the pontoon is coming up Sunday at 7. Earlier, later, we will see. As it is. Thank you guys. Catch you later.